we're having a very powerhouse real estate panel that I'm really excited to announce. The panelists are going to be Nick Bailey, President and CEO of RE/MAX. Hey, Nick. Josh Harley, founder and CEO of Fathom Holdings. Marc King, president of Keller Williams.
We were on time.
And this panel will be moderated by our editorial director of RealTrends, Tracy Velt. Welcome, Tracy.
Ooh, Tracy.
And this is the Amazon, building the Amazon of real estate. Tracy, take it away.
All right, great. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, great. Thanks so much for being here. And I want to just say thanks to my panel, because every single one of these CEOs and presidents should be on stage alone, but they've agreed to be on a panel together, and I really appreciate that. So I want to first start, RealTrends does a lot of research on brokerage benchmarking, and one of the recent benchmarking surveys we did was a 10-year study from 2012 to 2021, looking at margins on gross commission, and it had decreased to 3.7% in 2021 from 4.5% in 2012. However, the return on gross margin actually increased by 16.9%. So brokerages are finding ways to remain profitable. And that's something I want to talk a little bit about first, is there's obviously a shift in the market. And Nick, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the things that you are doing to kind of market-proof the company and lessons learned from the Great Recession, because I know you've all been through that. So.
We have. I didn't think I was that old to say that I have been, but yeah, we all have been. I'm not quite as old as Marc, though, so
Yeah.
I think we're okay.
Or experience.
Oh, we're just getting started. You wait for it. No, really, it's obviously there's some compression in brokerage margins, but I think the industry as a whole is in a race to the bottom. And what I mean by that is we have trained real estate agents to say, you are better suited not to find the right culture, but to save $15 a month. And that's the impression we have stamped for decision making. And when we talk about this topic of building the Amazon of real estate, that's where ancillary services come in. Mm-hmm. And I think that you rewind the clock even 30, 35 years ago, a large brokerage had 20 people in it. Mm-hmm. You were huge if you had 40. And now to have hundreds, if not thousands, spanning state lines, that's where the opportunity for ancillary, creating a better consumer experience plus brokerage margin helps. But the other thing that is big for us is we announced we've done a number of tech acquisitions over the last few years. I don't believe tech is going to replace a real estate agent. I don't believe tech is going to replace a loan officer. But I do believe that an LO and an agent that don't use tech will get replaced. And I think that that's a fine balance. And I also think that there's been a rush of companies that want to build their own. And I think this industry is guilty of trying to be jack of all trades, master of none. And so we've said, hey, here's how we make sure that we're not only profitable, but we're here to stay, which is make sure we know what we're good at. And that means partnering and outsourcing some tech. And we do that for our mortgage arm and for the real estate side.
Okay.
I think that he actually looked at my notes, so I think I'm going to cry foul right now.
He answered all the questions in one answer.
Well, it was
I
the
know,
whole,
exactly, he
What
did.
keyed me out was the jack of all trades, master of none. That's exactly in my notes, and
Sorry, Josh.
he's using tech to spy is what he's doing. Mm-hmm. You know, thinking about market-proofing your business, you know, one of the things, we talked about the last housing recession. You know, I actually started my company during the last housing recession. Like, what a genius time to start your company. But it was 2009, 2010 is when I started the company. And it was because of the housing recession that is why I started the company, why I built the model that I built. So trying to figure out how do I, as an agent, and how do I, as a broker owner, market-proof my business. And so that's why I started thinking about coming from a brokerage that was charging me, you know, really large splits. How do I recoup some of those costs so I can reinvest back into my business instead of pumping it into my broker? And so, you know, I was naive back then. I thought that, you know, as an agent, I don't need the broker. I've got my own technology, my own training, you know, I got all my stuff. I don't need the broker. I was stupid back then. You know, I've learned since then that there is real value to being part of a larger operation. But I also realized that to survive a market, there's only two ways to make more money: increase your revenue or decrease your costs. And in a down market, it's very difficult to increase your revenue. As brokers, as broker owners, we should be pouring into our agents, helping them increase their business, because at the end of the day, high tide lifts all boats, right? So if we can pour our energy and our time and our resources into our agents, helping each one of them be more successful, then we as a brokerage will be more successful. We'll also be much more attractive to other agents as well. So that, in one way, increases your revenue, even in a down market. But also, the idea of decreasing your costs. That you've got to really think about, in a down market, you've got to cut your costs. You've got to cut the bloat. You've got to find ways to streamline your operations. And that's exactly what we did. So we built a very asset-light business focused on technology. To your point, technology is not going to replace agents. I do not believe that. But again, to his point, Nick said it perfectly. If you're not using technology, you will be replaced. And so build a technology, asset-light, focused on technology that allowed us to streamline our operations, keep our costs low, so that way we not only survive in a down market, we freaking thrive in a down market. In fact, last month was our largest recruiting month we've ever had. And so I'm very proud of that. But again, there's a lot of things I think we're all doing here from a technology standpoint, just from a marketing standpoint, a building our agent standpoint, that's key to surviving in a downturn.
First time frickin's ever been used on stage.
I think so.
I don't say I don't curse, so that's my closest I get to that word.
No, I think the cool thing, and I am just getting to know you, but I've known Nick a long time, and I think what I would say about this panel is that we all believe in the real estate agent. We believe at the core fundamental, we all have different spins on things, but we believe in the real estate agent. And when times change and they get scary, agents look up and say, who should I listen to? And what's different this time than last time is there weren't 500 technology disintermediaries or CRM representatives, and there's no judgment there, but agents are looking for guidance. And so, we're fortunate. I'm always going to lean on the fact that Gary Keller wrote a book called Shift. And so what's fascinating is COVID kind of accelerated what I already saw happening, and that was real estate brokerages are looking a lot more like big teams.
Yeah.
So how do you distinguish I met with a team in Las Vegas yesterday, 82 agents, 240 million in volume, and it looks a lot like a brokerage, right? Everything they do, they train, they do their own things, they're an independent company, but they look a lot like a brokerage. And so I think what you're gonna see, right now our margins are being compressed at the brokerage level, but that's been happening even in the good times. So we're operating about 1% of GCI at the brokerage level. It was very high volume, low margin business model, and compare that to 25 to 40% as a top agent, and you see the disparity there. And so I think what's changed and what's accelerated is this blurred line of what is a top team, who provides leads, who sets appointments, who provides the admin. We're kind of going back to the 1970s when Nick was, 60s, when Nick was born. And we're kind of seeing the same thing over again. So.
Well, I kind of want to let's go with that team, because I know that you've got Empower Home. I can't even think of some of them. We've done, RealTrends has done studies on team profitability, and of course they're much more profitable than brokerages. And you ask, why would anyone want to start a brokerage when I can have a team? Obviously, Keller's very into the team models and expansion teams, but I know that you both support teams as well. So where do you see the team of the future going? And do you feel like it's a lot of competition for brokerage, or do you feel like you're a partner to them?
Well, I think you'll see this kind of merge into one. And I think, again, the line of disparity is not so easy to recognize anymore. But I do think the profit margins for the general broker has to go up because of the services and the liability. If you think about a top team, here's the crazy thing. A top team, if I built a large team and I joined Nick's office, he takes on all the broker liability. He pays the people to cut my checks and do all those things, and I get to sit back and collect all the profit. That's an awesome reality. But brokers have kind of woken up to that, going, wait a minute, we're playing a different game. The other thing I would say to that, because we have a couple of top teams, as you know, that we have one team that made $14 million in net profit last year. The game is changing. When I started in the business, the top producer in my market was a $10 million producer. Today, there are teams doing $1 billion in volume. So I do think brokers are going to look up and they're going to start providing leads at a referral split. They're going to start changing the way that they charge for different services. The value is going to have to be raised because, like Nick said, we are kind of racing to the bottom in a lot of markets, and it's who will cut who and who will charge the least, and I don't think that's good for any of us.
I would argue that I don't see it the same way. I mean, there are companies out there that chase and race into the bottom. right? Who can charge the least? And you'd probably point at me saying, you're one of those companies, right? But I'm not, right? So in most of our markets, so we are a 100% commission model, right? We charge nothing per month and $500 per transaction. So you're probably pointing at companies like us saying, you're on a race to the bottom. But the fact is, in most of our markets, we're actually one of the most expensive of our model. There's companies that are charging $100 per transaction, and they're dying while we're growing. Why is that? Too many of these companies, like he's referring to, that are on that race to the bottom, are trying to do that by cutting out services, cutting out technology, cutting out everything. But when a company comes in and provides all the tools, the technology, the training, the resources, and also provides that low fee, then it becomes a very highly attractive. In fact, our attrition rate's 1% per month, just over 1% per month. So we attract a lot of agents and we rarely lose agents. But you're exactly right, though. I mean, too many of these companies are coming in trying to undercut people and giving all brokerages a bad name. The problem is when you do that, you're providing no tools and no resource to the agents. You're not helping the agents become better individuals. You're not helping them become their best. And so you can't get too cheap, because if you become too cheap, you can't be profitable. If you're not profitable, they can't survive either. So the fees do have to be a little bit higher. Where I would say, though, on the team standpoint, you're exactly right. I think the future is really where teams are going. And so as a brokerage, you have to allow the teams to exist. We've got a lot of teams, very highly, in fact, we got teams that make more money than I do, and I'm the CEO of the frickin' company. Frickin' again, see?
Yeah.
Frickin' again.
Right? I mean, they make some great money, but as a brokerage, we can do a lot of the same thing. Utilizing technology, we can provide leads as well. Because not every agent is going to join a team, and yet they want what the teams provide. So that's training, that's coaching, that's resources, that's leads. And so can you utilize technology to be able to generate leads for those agents who aren't part of teams? And so I think that becomes a focus on technology also, surviving through that market downturn, because that's a great, even though we charge $500 per transaction, we can make 50% or 40% or 30% or whatever on the leads that we generate, right? So now we can recoup money the other way. And of course, going into the Amazon, we've got mortgage, we've got title, we've got insurance. We have all these other ways to generate additional resources, for the brokerage to be able to fund and provide more back to the agents.
Let me say this, teams are here to stay, but not everybody wants to be a team, because it is about kind of running a business. Now, I worked for a company, let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I've spent most of my time on the brokerage and the franchise side, but there was about a 5-year period of time that I went and did some other things cool in the space. And I was sitting in the boardroom with some of the leaders, and they said, the broker's going to go away. Team leaders are going to take over, and they're going to be the broker. And I raised my hand, being the industry guy in the room, and said, no, they're not. There's licensing requirements that require oversight and contract review. And until the divisions of real estate change license law, the broker of record is not going away anytime soon. Right. And so it depends on what kind of business you want to be in. There's room for all of the models. I believe it's each agent finding their place. But here's what I think is interesting. I agree with Mark when he says we all care about the agent, because we do. But here's something that's interesting. I know there's a lot of mortgage people here at the conference. And we have, within RE/MAX Holdings, Motto Mortgage, which is a mortgage franchise, first of its kind. And you know what drives the big mortgage companies crazy, that are spending hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in customer acquisition? They get all these pre-qualifications, they get the customers through the funnel, and then when they meet their local real estate agent, it breaks, because the agent says, I've got a gal, I've got a guy that knows how to get you qualified and get through the transaction to closing. It drives these mortgage companies absolutely crazy. And so when I think about the importance of the real estate agent, there are all these ancillary conversations that are going around with prop tech and fintech and everything else. But consumers say they want the trusted advisor. They're only going to do this likely on average 2 to 3 times in their lifetime. And the closer that the services are to the local market with the local relationships, the more successful the pull-through rate is. And when you look at the percentage of referrals that an agent gives to a lender, whether it be part of their company or just someone down the street that they like to do business with, and then you look at the over 85% to 90% of the time, mortgage refers to title and escrow, and depending on your state, that referral chain is so important at the local level of the connection with the local agent, that I see these companies that literally spend hundreds of millions of dollars trying to pull the customer away from the professionals at the local level, and they don't last. And then these companies come back around and say, oh wait, I guess this is a local business. Not only, Josh lives in Dallas, not only in Plano, but on the other side of town is totally different, right? On those relationships. And so I think the more, when I see success of not only agents, team leaders, ancillary services, or anyone around the transaction, when they're framed at the local level, they're the most successful. It's when they get out of the local market, they spend huge money on customer acquisition, and they have the highest break rates.
The call center is not nearly as effective as that local relationships. So I mean, that's exactly what we did. We decided to take it boots on the ground. So each of our markets where we do have mortgage, those local loan officers are there building relationships with the agents, because to his point, most of these mortgage companies are spending huge amounts of money trying to generate leads outside, and yet once you're tied to a real estate company and the objectives and the goals are aligned, then you get a lot more attach rate, much greater attach rate from those agents. Because at the end of the day, is the agent going to say, hey, you should call this 800 number, you're going to love them, or are they going to say, hey, you should talk to Susan, you're going to love her, we go on vacations with her, she's fantastic, right? The local relationships are way more valuable. Now, not to say that the call center doesn't work, it works very well. Some of the biggest companies out there are call center based. But from a brokerage standpoint, if we really want to build in that mortgage business into our company, it really has to be a really nice, tight, integrated focus on local relationships.
You have anything to add to that?
No, they said lots of words.
Well, let's talk tech, because obviously you all have very different views of technology and whether it should be built in-house or whether it should be outside. I'm going to start with Nick on this one. You just hired a new Chief Information Officer to lead up your, what is it, Max Tech? Is that what you called it?
Yeah, Max Tech.
Max Tech, right.
Powered by KV Core.
Right, powered by KV Core, and you had originally purchased Bouge and tried to make that work, and you felt like that wasn't your wheelhouse. So explain what your thoughts are on, a tech platform, and also, to me, it's really table stakes. I mean, I've been in real estate long enough to see, Zillow come to market. And I've also seen the kind of rise and fall of the panic over, oh my gosh, we have to have a tech platform, let's put it all together. Then, okay, we're gonna build it in-house. Then, okay, wait, that's not working, let's do something different. So I've seen all iterations of it. So take it away.
Yeah, thanks. My position, or I should say lens on this, might be a little unique, because when I left the brokerage franchise side, I actually went to Market Leader, which is a SaaS-based CRM. That was acquired by Trulia. And I do think that was a major moment in the industry, because you had a portal acquire a CRM company. And I was part of that transition leading industry, and of course we all know how the story continued with Zillow acquiring Trulia, and should we have a CRM, should we not? But what I saw happen in the rest of the industry in the brokerage world is, oh my gosh, Trulia paid $344 million for Market Leader. They're bringing in a CRM, a database, to grab leads and really stay tight with the consumer. That means I watch brokerages and brands all say, well, we have to have our own too. And I do believe that was a pivotal moment with brokerages and brands saying, well, we have to create our own. And the reality is, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, maybe, Josh, your CRM texted and mine didn't, so that was a recruiting retention advantage over me. I don't really think that's the case today. I think a contact manager is just something that you should have. I think it's more what gets you closer to a transaction-ready consumer. We hear about leads in the business, right? 8 years ago, there were 4.5 million transactions, 4.6 million, there were 4.5 million leads generated. There were over 200 million leads generated last year, but still about the same number of transactions, right? We ebb and flow 700,000 transactions, but we ebb and flow 195 million leads. So I don't believe that agents today want more leads. What I do believe they want is more transaction-ready customers. They want a faster way to identify who's closest to buying and selling today. And that's where I think the AI side of it gets super interesting, which makes agents nervous. But at the same time, the idea of, oh, I don't want someone to have my data, ship has sailed, done, let some of this tech do the work for you, in a world that in a mobile-driven environment that it serves up and says, good morning, Nick, here are the 3 people that are possibly going to list that you know, and here are the 2 people that are going to be buyers. Here are the 5 people that you need to be in front of. And those are money-making activities. And you'll hear our co-founder, Dave Liniger, talk about this all the time. Successful agents focus on money-making activities every day. Yes, you've got to get the dry cleaning and the car wash, and you've got to fill out the MLS sheet and the just listed, just sold postcards. But if you're not in front of someone that wants to buy and sell every day, you didn't work. And so the tech side of it, it's expensive. Look at how many tech companies are out there in our industry that have never turned a profit. And newsflash, long-term folks in business, you have to at some point turn a profit. And so we looked at it, we made 4 tech acquisitions. We're keeping the best of and looking at saying, what are the ones that are super expensive, not as adopted as well as we want? And by the way, we're a real estate company, a real estate franchise company that utilizes tech to drive business. And so we decide what we want to own that's proprietary and what we want to partner. And we believe the success is a combination of both, with the heavy lifting being done through partnership.
So he just hired a fantastic CIO, by the way. Awesome guy. So proud of you guys for that one.
Yeah, he worked for him about 2 weeks ago. This is true. So backstage, I didn't know how this was going to go, but thank you for sharing him with us.
Corporate espionage.
So let's talk tech, because I think we're going to fundamentally disagree on this. You know, remember 6 months ago when data was new oil and everybody was building their own tech and then everybody got out? Well, here's the reality. Here's what you won't hear. Stock price is driven by short-term decisions. So what you see is you see a bunch of people acquiescing their tech and giving their tech away. If data is the new oil, suddenly we don't need oil. In the industry, at our size and scale, we believe we have the agent count to fund the R&D of our own tech. So we are going to push forward and do our own tech because we believe long term we have to protect the realtor. We don't even own realtor.com anymore. True. We trademarked the name and then we sold it and we don't own it. And so if you're looking 10 years, 15, 30 years out, you need to be able to own and control your own tech. And I would tell you that a Keller Williams agent is on one side or the other of 1 out of every 5 homes sold in the United States. So we have 20% of the data. With Nick, you got 1 out of 3 with combining those 2 things. And so with our 2 companies, so we have 1/3 of the data in our industry between right here, right? And so the question is, what do you do with that? Right now, KV Corp claims they have 400,000 people on there. We like those guys. I think they're doing a great job. They have a great product. So this is not a judgment on that, but I just implore them not to sell to somebody and sell the realtor down the road again. That would be my only thing. If they have 400,000 agents of the 1.56 million, that's a dangerous place, I think, for all of us to be. So we continue to push on. And yes, it is stupid expensive. It's hundreds of millions of dollars a year to do this. And that's why you see so many people backing out. That's why you see shareholders at some of our competitors not on stage screaming and yelling about their stock price going through the floor, because what Wall Street realizes, they're actually a real estate brokerage, not a tech company.
That is true.
So I do want to add to that. So I'm in a little bit between the both of them. So I completely agree with what you're saying, and also completely agree with what you're saying. So I'm going to play
Right
a middle child, so I'm playing mediator between them.
And he's running for office. Vote for Josh this fall. Come on, take a stand.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many people say that. So we actually had to build our own technology. We didn't really have a choice. We used to use KV Corp, again, fantastic company. I don't think they're going to be acquired. I think if they're smart, they're probably going to go public. Don't go public now, though. Awful time to go public, as you guys know.
Yeah,
don't do it right now.
That's right.
But for us, see, most companies focus on the CRM side, the agent websites, the brokerage websites, the lead generation side. That's what they focus on. Problem is, most brokerages have 5 to 7 different technology companies that they license technology from, and it's expensive, right? And so what we had to do, if we're going to charge very little to the agents, by the way, we charge very little to the agents, as I've said, and yet we hit adjusted EBITDA profitability faster than any of our peers have ever done, charging a fraction of what they do. It's because of the technology. So instead of focusing on the CRM and the agent websites, which we do own, we actually built our own technology from ground up, focusing on the actual brokerage operations, right? The transaction management, the document workflow, we're building the e-signature piece of it, all the stuff that actually runs the brokerage, getting agents paid, everything that folks on running the brokerage is what we built first. that allowed us to streamline the operations, keep our costs really low, allowed us to provide lower fees to the agents. Then we tacked in brokerage, the websites and the CRM and the rest of it. So now it's an all-in-one solution we have that we own. We built 90% of it, we acquired 10% of it. Right now, 750 brokerages license our data or technology, touching over 100,000 agents. So not only do we build it for ourselves, we're actually building it for other companies as well, because if we could do what we did, again, charging a fraction of what our peers do, and yet hit adjusted EBITDA profitability faster than any of our public peers, imagine what we could do for the mom and pop brokerages who are struggling just to survive right now. We want to help them to not just survive, but thrive like we did for ourselves. And because it's important, the fact is, it shouldn't be 3 or 4 behemoths running this whole country. We need those 86,000 mom and pop brokerages that exist right now. They are the lifeblood of those local markets. I just want to be able, if they're not going to join my company, I know they're not going to all do that, can I at least empower them? Can I make money other ways from them? There's other ways to profit.
But I think you touched on something that's important. Whether you're an agent, whether you're a broker, whether maybe you're an LO or have a mortgage company, the one word that we all just touched on in a different fashion is some availability to scale. And I don't believe the fragmentation in my lifetime in this business, and I think I've got a couple more years, is going to go away, because it's built by entrepreneurs that are, you always have that agent that says, hey, I'm maybe ready to be a team leader, or that person that says, I'm ready to own my own brokerage. That's just the entrepreneurial spirit at the core of our industry, I believe. And as long as that doesn't go away, it's always going to be that one agent, whether it be in any one of our companies, that says, I think I'm ready to do my next step. And so there will always be 50, 60, 80,000. That's where we talk about the title of this, building the Amazon of real estate. I don't think it's going to happen the way we think of Amazon today. I think what we think of it is in 2 different ways, which is one, the Amazon experience of the ease of use, tracking your package. I always refer to it as the pizza tracker. I hear some of my competitors using that. I coined that phrase 6 years ago, just so you know. The CEO of Domino's did a great job, but I stole it for our industry.
We just hired the guy who built that, by the way.
Good, yeah. And that'll cost $200 million to figure it out. Good luck with that. Anyway, but we want that, right? And you see it in the mortgage vertical, you see it in the title vertical. I just got presented to last week from a title company that wants us to adopt it, but the only part of it was title and escrow. What the consumer wants is, there's on average 181 steps from the time I decide to transact to get to closing. And so that's the Amazon experience, but there's so much fragmentation. There are pieces and parts of it. Do I think the tech will evolve to get more Amazon-esque? I do believe yes. And it will take partners and APIs even more robust than we have today to bring that together. But the part of it when I say it's not going to happen is going back to that local level piece. That I see all of these companies get so frustrated because that one company is going to change the world and make it all Amazon. But then they forget, whoops, we left out the agent. And then we just want to put it this way, that if we put the funnel, the agents here and the closings here, most of these companies start somewhere in the arch over, try to drive here, and then they try to shove it back to the agent for adoption. The easiest way is when you start with the agent, they'll thread the needle for you throughout the transaction. And so no one's come at it from the Amazon side of it, of building it from the front end. They come at it from the middle, drive it back to the agent, and hope it comes out.
You're spot on.
From a technology standpoint, we're instead of trying to be the Amazon, we're trying to be the Shopify, right? How do we build a platform that allows agents to plug their business into our technology and operate the way they want to run their business? They may not want to run the business the way I want to, and that's okay. Everyone runs their business a little differently. That's what makes real estate so special. This is the last great, I don't know what you call it, but the last great American dream, where it doesn't care what color you are, doesn't care male or female, doesn't care education. I mean, I've got no college, and I'm 8 years in the Marine Corps, didn't care. The fact is, it cares about how hard you're willing to work. You plug into a system, you work hard. People like these guys right here, we've all built systems that allows agents to plug into our system and be successful if they're just willing to work hard. And that's what's beautiful about this real estate space. And so building tools and technology that allows agents to kind of build their own relationships and build their own book of business, I think is where the power comes in. So forget Amazon. I like the idea of Shopify a little bit better.
I agree with that. It was ironic that the name Amazon, I thought, well, wait, we're all interested in profit. So we don't build Amazon. And so I think some of our competitors are building Amazon right now, but we're not building Amazon.
And I love that you remind us about the Marine Corps. That just means that he can kill us with one hand.
Right.
And that's a reminder.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you.
My last 4 years in the Marine Corps, my job was hand-to-hand combat instructor. So that was,
wow.
It fits, that's right.
Got it.
You know what they say?
Josh is right, everybody.
Those,
Give him a hand.
you know what they say? Those who teach, or those who can't teach. That's what it really means. I was the worst fighter, so they made me teach instead.
Well, I want to talk disruptors. You know, that was a buzzword several years back, and I feel like obviously it didn't work. The disrupting the real estate agent is, to me, not really a good play or a play that's going to work. We've done RealTrends has done several Harris Interactive consumer studies, and the last one we did had a higher percentage of people wanting to use a real estate agent than the one we did 3 years before that. So what I'm seeing, and I want your thoughts on this, is that more of these companies are looking to partner with brokerages and offer new services, and this kind of gets into, I wouldn't necessarily say they're all core services. They might become core services at some point, but I don't know, Mark, why don't you start? Talk to me a little bit about that new strategic move.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we were on a panel a couple years ago, and I was joking about this, that 5 years ago, no prop tech company would talk to me.
Yeah.
And they were going to take over real estate, and we were going to swipe right and buy a house. And Rich Barton kind of disintermediated travel agents with Expedia. They went to Netflix, and then he was coming to Zillow, and that was going to end all the need for a fiduciary. And we didn't believe that fundamentally. Well, now it's interesting. Wherever we go, we get bombarded with vendors who want to, they're like, oh my gosh, wait a minute, we actually do need mortgage brokers. We do need human beings and a fiduciary at that level. We do need real estate professionals and a fiduciary. So I think just like LegalZoom didn't disintermediate a lawyer, Zillow hasn't disintermediated the real estate agent. I think that's what we've all come to discover. But I would tell you that going back to technology for a second, one of the things that's so important, and again, I don't want to harp on this too much, but I do believe we need to own and control our own. What I don't understand is why every real estate company hasn't come together to create their own. Because it's not a Keller Williams versus Remax. It is a, who do you want to fundamentally own and control your data? Do you want Rupert Murdoch
Yes,
to
it
own?
is. Keller Williams against Remax.
You're
Let's
losing,
clarify
you're
that.
losing
Because
miserably.
we're
though.
highly competitive.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just,
But why aren't we pooling our resources and building together?
Maybe NAR will do that for you.
There you go. So the idea happened here first. Josh is going to run it. But what happens is you look at what technology means to the agent and to all of the different companies, and there's a platform that we need to build, that we are building at Keller Williams, that every tech company can then plug into through API. And because there's no way you're going to get all real estate agents to agree on anything in terms of how to run their business. And I do think that the functionality and fundamental features of like a KV Core, which is fairly advanced, are going to change over time. And with change comes money. With change comes the ability for, new companies are starting in garages every day. And that's what I really like about this market is you're going to see the entrepreneurial spirit really thrive in this moment. And people are going to create things. We haven't even seen the iterations of what's going to happen. But what I don't think you're going to see happen is the most complex, most expensive purchase of your life suddenly go to an iPad.
No.
Amen to that.
You know what's funny? You mentioned disruptor. Can I do a little soapbox that has nothing to do with this industry?
Sure.
How many of you would just love a TV guide?
TV guide?
A TV guide.
guide.
Let's start there.
What's that?
Here's what's fascinating, right? Netflix was, quote, disruptor. First of all, I don't think companies are disruptors. I think consumers are. It's based on their demands, and they create the disruption. We don't. Second of all, what's interesting, I was just telling my wife the other night, we were watching television, and I saw Peacock next year. My wife's a vocal major, so we watch The Voice and all these, singing shows and all of that. They're going to charge $1.99 for streaming. Okay, when I was a kid, we had 13 channels, and if you wanted HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, you paid for these, and that's where all the cool shows were. Are we not back to, we don't have 13, we have 1,300 boring channels,
Right.
and now we're all paying for the subscriptions that we want.
Yeah.
We are right back to 40 years ago when I was 7 years old, and now we had to wait to see Dallas at 8 o'clock on Friday nights, and now we're back to that. Instead of dumping the whole season, they make us wait a week. And isn't that funny? In 40 years disruption, and we are right back to where we started. And I think that holds true in our industry quite a bit too.
King Solomon once said, there's nothing new under the sun. We're just kind of redoing the same thing over and over again.
The industry's doing that too. It's kind of what you're seeing with teams and broker. The idea of being on a 50-50 split, being dependent on someone else and having someone else set your leads or advertise or lead generate, that seemed foreign for about a 10-year gap, and now we're back to that model.
And
Yeah.
team members are willing to come in and be on a 50-50 split to have oversight and leads and let somebody
Yeah.
else be the rainmaker.
Yep.
Well,
50% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
Right.
Which is why they're so profitable.
Yeah.
I have no idea how we are on time because our
clock
confidence
doesn't
monitor
work, but
isn't
we're just gonna
working.
go all day.
So
We're just
if
gonna keep
anybody
going.
knows, please let me know.
Yank us off. They're not giving us the hook. They're like, just keep going.
So let's talk about kind of opportunity in this market, and you know, I think Ryan Serhant talked about it a little bit in what he was talking about. This is the market to gain market share, to look for opportunity, to be more innovative. Tell me a little bit, we'll start with Nick, tell me a little bit about where you see that going and what you're doing to kind of grow in this market.
yeah, thank you. Well, first and foremost, we've been telling our network this is your market to win if you want it. And we're fortunate that our business model supported top producers and outsell the competition 2-to-1. Average experience is 15 years, the industry's 7. Okay, there's my commercial. But the reality is, I saw a stat the other day, not verified, but I think it's pretty darn close, folks. 91% of agents right now have never sold real estate when days on market has been over 45 days and interest rates above 4%.
I would agree with that. So we've done some studies with that, and it's usually 75% according to the broker surveyed, but that's a small percentage of people surveyed. So
It's
if you
wild.
extrapolate that out.
So what happens is, okay, we're getting to a balanced market. It's not down. Okay, we had 6.1 million last year. Anything less than that is going to be, quote, down. But it's really more of a balance. I mean, come on, we couldn't have 125 consecutive months of run-up in pricing
Right.
and that be sustainable. So it's totally balanced. Buyers are going to have a chance again. That is all good. But at the same time, I believe a lot of agents in the last couple of years have rented their business, not owned it. Yeah. And those that are going to gain market share and that are going to sell houses are going to be those that own their business, not rent it. And they don't just start backing up. Because there are agents right now that are backing up, watching the news, and saying, oh my gosh, maybe I need a real job. I got into this for flexible hours, drive a fancy car, and now I don't know what to do. And I think the reality is when you do the idea of staying close to your database, most top producers are based on repeat and referral business. Most of them have a really good lender that they work with, and they know lending right now. I mean, ARMs, come on, adjustable rate mortgages are it. And
What are
so,
those?
yeah.
Those 91% of the agents, by the way, have never heard of creative financing or seller price reductions
Some don't
or
have open houses.
You're right. I mean, it's such a different time. But you know, I want to just talk on something because this is the least sexy thing to talk about, and I'm going to get someone just going to throw a shoe at me. But I think Nick and I agree. I'm not. You tell me later.
Take the shoe off.
There's fear mongering going on all over the place. The market's going to crash. It's like 2008.
Yes.
There's nothing today that's like 2008. Let me just give you 4 or 5 examples of that. There are 128 million households in America today. There were 116 million in 2008. It's 12 million more. We have 5 million more millennials at peak buying age today than we had Gen Xers, like Nick and I are. I think, yeah, you're right in between.
Same age as this guy.
Oh, okay.
I got a
So
grandfather
you look
here. I'm a
young.
grandpa.
The Marines are good for
Yeah,
you.
but
So
you have
Gen
a
X.
30-year-old. My oldest is 17.
You've got, so you got the supply and demand conversation. You know, what caused the Great Recession was the housing market. You can't find evidence of a recession that ever actually caused a housing crash. So I know there's a lot of YouTubers trying to gain likes, but the problem is we have 1.6 million realtors, 1.56 right now, and we have 800,000 active listings. Which, oh, by the way, we had 2.4 million active listings in 2008. Housing starts are half of what they were. Lumber per 1,000 square foot, or not square foot, per 1,000 foot per board tripled for 3 months. Now it's back to where it was. You have no evidence that the market's going to crash. And so the dangerous part of this, and the reason that it's a soapbox for me, is that we have agents in this industry and companies in this industry and YouTubers all over the place scaring the hell out of consumers. And that is not what a fiduciary is, right? So having your agents trained at a high level and being a professional is really important. So I do think you're going to shed, pick a number, 15% of the agent base over the next 24 months, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
And I think already 10 or 15% are gone. But it's a lagging number because they're on a 2 to 3 year renewal cycle, so they may have stepped out, but they're not going to turn their license in until they renew.
That's fair.
Let me add one stat to support Mark on this, which is 35% of houses don't have a mortgage, 64% have positive equity. Folks, we're sitting in a position that around 1%, give or take, a small margin of error, are in a positive equity positions. What, 3.8 trillion last year established in equity. The average homeowner had $57,000 increase on average, higher than many average incomes. Even if prices have pressure and come down a bit, most homeowners are still in a very good position.
One thing I share with our agents is that, and I completely agree, this is not like 2006 through 2011. I mean, that was the housing recession, nothing like it. But if you take 2007, right, 2005, 2006 housing bubble, 2007, 2011 was the housing recession. During that time period, we went from about 1.34 million realtors, somewhere around there, 1.3 million realtors, at the end down to 1 million realtors. So it decreased about 25%. It's a big decrease. Homes sold went from 5 million homes sold, right at 5 million, down to like 4.26 million homes sold. That's a 15% decrease, which means that if the agents just hung out and waited, they'd actually have closed more sales per agent than they did at the peak of the housing bubble, right? So what I try to explain to agents is that use this opportunity, cut the bloat out of your business. Same thing with brokerages too. Cut the bloat out of your business, invest in your business, double down, don't pull back. Most agents right now are trying to pull back and try to survive the storm. Those are the agents that are gonna fail and get out of the business. The agents who actually double down and invest more into the business, gain market share while people are getting out, are gonna come out of the other side dominating, owning their market. So use this opportunity to double down and build your business, gain greater market share, because now I'm damned excited about this market. I know it's bad to say, but this is an incredible opportunity. And by the way, there's probably not a week that goes by that a company doesn't reach out to us asking us to acquire them. I mean, what an incredible opportunity from, if you've got your ducks in a row and you've got cash in the bank, an incredible opportunity to also grow through acquisitions too.
So did I hear you wanted to be acquired?
Yep.
We are acquiring.
Okay. Hey, don't ask, don't get, right?
That's right.
How much are you paying?
Depends. We'll talk backstage.
Are you making your announcement? Is this where the merger happens?
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna hold hands now?
But you're right. The one thing I tell everyone, deep breath, no matter what. Inflation up, down, rates up, down, economy up, down. Guess what I do know in 30 years in this business? What happens every single year? Houses are bought and sold.
Yep.
Period. It will happen. So the question is not going to be if that does happen, it's going to just be who does it.
Yep.
They're shooing us off stage, but I'll
Yes.
just say the last thing
Go
is
ahead.
there's more opportunity to make more money for agents, brokers, loan officers in this market if you're on the right side of opportunity. And there's a huge opportunity to make less money.
Yeah.
And you have to choose what you're going to do. You may have to do more lead generation, more belly to belly, more customer service, and by the way, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you so much, Nick, Josh, Mark. I really appreciate your time, and we're done.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Tracy.